Now, the minority in Parliament says any attempt by the Akufo-Addo-led government to use the courts to tilt the balance of power in Parliament will be a greatest danger to the country's democracy. According to the minority, government is adopting crude tactics, including the use of the judiciary to reduce their numbers in Parliament. Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu argues that the moves by government is an attempt to forcefully push through the controversial e-levy. The Assin North MP James Dachi has been slapped with 5 criminal charges, including forgery and perjury, by the Attorney General's office. Speaking at a conference, the Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu insisted any attempt to prosecute the Assin North MP will undermine the rule of law.
Without prejudice, the issue of whether or not per Article 94(2)(a) of the 1992 Constitution, I believe that is what is before our competent courts. Whether Honorable James Kwesi was qualified to stand as an MP is a question of law, which is pending before the Court of Appeal. Under the circumstances, the lawful and reasonable thing for the Ghana Police, the ruling New Patriotic Party government, and their surrogates to do is to abide by the decision of the Court of Appeal on these processes as their modicum contribution to the respect for the principles of rule of law. Any attempt by the police to prosecute Honorable James Kwesi on the conclusion or assumption that he was not or is not qualified to contest the 2020 parliamentary election, pending a final decision by the Superior Court, is only prejudicial of the Court of Appeal and therefore contemptuous of the Court of Appeal and an obvious disrespect to the rule of law and the rule to respect an independent arbiter of the judiciary. Any attempt to use the courts to tilt the balance of power will be the gravest danger to the sustenance of our multi-party democratic system when we lose faith and confidence in the independent judiciary.
Well, Haruna Idrisu also indicated that despite victimization, the minority will continue to oppose the e-levy.
It is obvious that the desperate Akufo-Addo government, the Attorney General Office and the Police Administration are acting in bad faith to get an unfair advantage in Parliament for the Nana Akufo-Addo Bawumia government in its unbridled quest to pass the unpopular, insensitive e-levy, which remains a major disincentive to the development of our digital economy and an apparent disregard for their own quest for a cash-light economy. We don't want to believe, neither do we want to accept, that they want to use the courts to tilt the balance of power. We simply will not support e-levy, nothing more. Yeah. We shall continue with all our might to resist these desperations of the despotic Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo regime and those use of crude Machiavellian tactics to reduce our numbers without respect to the rule of law and respect to our court hierarchy and its authority as an independent, neutral arbiter on these matters.
Meanwhile, the majority has described as preposterous claims by the minority that the criminal prosecutions against the Assin North Member of Parliament is an attempt adopted by the government to reduce their numbers. In an interview with Joy News, the Ebuakwa South MP, Samuel Atachia, argues that the law must be applied if criminality is occasioned.
He should not be in the chamber because if he attempt at all, because they've declared that he's not an MP. That is common sense. How can a non-MP be in the chamber and deliberate on matters concerning legislation? Please, they should know better. I was even surprised that the Speaker did not call his attention to the fact that get out of the chamber. Because there's a declaration by a court of competent jurisdiction that you are not a member of Parliament. So until that decision is reversed by the Court of Appeal, he has no right to be in the chamber.
So if he's in the chamber partaking in any kind of decision-taking, any policy voting, what's the strategy of the majority going forward?
Well, we should draw the attention of the Speaker that this man should get out of the chamber before we commence business. Because by operation of law, he's been declared not as a member of Parliament.
So you'll ensure he's out of the chamber?
He should be out of the chamber. But what are we promoting? It's like saying, excuse me to say, you are a journalist, not a member of Parliament, and you're coming to, deliberate on the e-levy. How would the rest of the world see us? Are we a lawless band of people that anybody can come to the chamber and do what pleases him? That would be very, very unfortunate.
I see. So going forward from tomorrow, if he gets into the chamber, you'll alert the Speaker to get...
We should alert the Speaker that a stranger is in the chamber. That's how they call them. A non-member of Parliament, you understand, cannot come and deliberate on issues concerning legislation. Unless you know that that person is a minister who's been invited or he wants to come and make a statement. Ministers are permitted to come and do business, although they are not members of the...
Well, Samuel Atachi also observed that the majority will prevent the Assin North MP from partaking in any parliamentary business, describing him as a stranger in the chamber.
He should not be in the chamber because if he should not be in the chamber at all, because we've declared that he's not an MP. That is common sense. How can a non-MP be in the chamber and deliberate on matters concerning legislation? Please, they should know better. I was even surprised that the Speaker did not call his attention to the fact that get out of the chamber. Because there's a declaration by a court that you are not a member of Parliament. The absurdity of that submission is so obvious. Are you saying that in this realm called Ghana, whatever levy or whatever bill is before Parliament, when a man has committed a crime, the laws of the country should be suspended? It will not make sense at all. The issues concerning this MP did not predate the e-levy. So if the coincidence is that, this is the time that the Attorney General has picked up the issue because now he's been declared that he's not a member of Parliament, properly so called. Because the Attorney General was waiting for the civil matter to, take on the criminal one. Why would you want to fault the Attorney General for acting constitutionally?
It's been over a year. The government hasn't said anything about it. All of a sudden, the e-levy comes to Parliament. You are struggling to get the numbers, and you resort to getting him out of Parliament.
Well, let me be very, very upfront here that there's no struggle. I know that it's a little while, and the full complement of the members of the MPP will be in the House. I don't think there's a struggle. If somebody is not well, and the person is out of the realm, let's give decency to the situation of ill health. And then when the person is fine, we are all here.
Well, earlier Thursday, the Attorney General slapped the Assin North MP, James Jesse Quayson, with charges including forgery and perjury. He is also accused of deceiving a public officer and knowingly making a false declaration. It will be recalled that the High Court in July 2021 annulled the Assin North parliamentary election, saying Mr. Quayson was not eligible to contest the polls as he was a dual citizen at the time of filing his nominations. Criminal proceedings have commenced against the MP. Court correspondent Joseph Akable has the rest of the story.
The MP was not present in court when the case was called. The charges that have been filed against him includes perjury, forgery, deceit of a public officer, and making a false declaration for office. According to the prosecutors, while filling a passport application form, the MP failed to indicate that he held on to dual citizenship at the time. That is, he was a Ghanaian as well as a Canadian. Rather, they say on the form he indicated that he was only a Ghanaian. Now, they say that that was the situation in terms of the nomination form he filed to contest the elections as well. So this is the basis for the charges that have been leveled against him. The court was informed that they had been unable to serve him with the documents, and so the court directed that a hearing notice be issued and the MP ordered to appear before the court on February 9, 2022. For joining us on the Law Court Complex, my name is Joseph Akable.
Well, so let's have some conversation on this. Joining me via Zoom is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, Dr. Rashid Rahman. He joins us via Zoom. Good evening to you, sir. Now, we have a situation where both sides have stated their position on the matter. The majority has made it clear that they would not cooperate with the minority side. How do you see all of this panning out on the day the e-levy will be considered?
Thank you very much for having me. I think it looks like we are still in for some very rough times in Parliament. Most of us were hoping that, the last few days with all the consultations that have been going on, we were hoping that the two sides were coming closer towards the middle. Rather, what we are seeing with all these developments is that they are moving far apart from each other. So it's understandable, the stakes are very high, and both sides would do everything. The NDC is determined to say they don't support the e-levy and they want to record their vote against the e-levy in their full numbers. The MPP is determined to pass the e-levy, as we have heard over and over. I haven't heard any person from the MPP side, both in Parliament and outside of Parliament, who has said that this bill is not going to go ahead. Now we have the Speaker out of the jurisdiction. So assuming everybody is present from both sides, we are going to have a deficit of one person who is presiding. And if what we saw in December is anything to go by, we are going to have the minority side saying any attempt by the person presiding to vote will be resisted. So now I think we see this activated. This is an ongoing court case. And we see that activated. I mean, if you ask political watchers, they will tell you that is the political strategy. Because if the NDC side is reduced by 1, that gives them 136. And if you have 137 from the MPP, assuming all the members are present, so even if the presiding Speaker, Honorable Joe Wise, is in the chair and he doesn't get to vote, you still have an advantage of one person. So I think all this is part of the strategy by each side. But what it does is that in the long run is going to further, put the two sides far apart. Something that we think might not be very good for the functioning of Parliament for the next 3 years. We are rather looking at ways to build bridges and build consensus between the two sides.
And I guess it's fair when there's disagreement on the floor of the House, but the concern now is about the spectacles of yesterday, the clashes that we witnessed in Parliament. Are you predicting that would happen again? What do you foresee happening on that day when the consideration is made?
Well, I mean, I don't know what's likely to happen. I mean, if the Assin North MP is prevented from coming into the chamber, and then you have perhaps some resistance from the minority side, then we will see a spectacle. If he's prevented from coming into the chamber and, that is let go, and then the members present would go into the chamber, those who are allowed to go into the chamber and cast their votes, then I guess, as I indicated earlier, assuming that the MPP side, everybody is present, they are going to have one person numerical advantage, as like when the Right Honourable Speaker is around.
So the minority is also accusing government of deploying treacherous means to tilt the balance of power in parliament. Given this accusation that we're hearing, what's your reading of the timing of the AG's interest in this matter?
Well, I mean, certainly, I don't know what the interest or whether there's any special interest. I know it's an ongoing case, and no matter how you look at it, anybody from the NDC side will read meaning into it. I mean, especially the timing. So people will say, why didn't this come earlier? This case has been with us since the first day because, people remember his issue held up the voting of the Right Honorable Speaker by almost 3-4 hours on the day that Parliament was choosing the Speaker. So I guess, the minority side is reading a lot of meaning into this. And I guess, the majority side, if you ask them, they would say, well, I mean, this is a case that everybody knows about and a case that has been pending before the court. So there's nothing untoward about this.
But with both sides now drawing up plans, we've seen them announce that, to forcibly get the MP on the floor or prevent him from entering Parliament, would you say that we are yet to see the most unpopular drama unfold in Parliament again?
Yes, indeed, because I understand perhaps the police will be involved in this particular case. It's not the marshals and so on. Some serious drama would happen if the honorable member shows up and he's prevented from entering the House. I mean, definitely, I guess that would be even worse than when the presiding speaker attempted to vote.
But finally, give me your expert thoughts on this latest development. Do you feel that Jachi Kwesen is deserving of all the rights as an MP now to be allowed, because he's claimed that there's not seen the service from the court? Per the standing orders of the House, should he be allowed to enter the chamber of Parliament? That's the question now.
Well, I mean, per the standing orders, we had the honorable minority leader say that the matter is before court and no firm determination has been made yet. So if no firm determination has been made by a court of law, then I think he could attend to Parliament just like he has done over the last couple of months, because like I said, this has been going on for a year now. However, I don't have all the details, I don't have all the facts, but you have to remember there's a precedent here. Honorable Adamu Sakande went to jail because of something similar, and he was from the MPP, if you remember quite well. Now we are seeing this play out, and perhaps many more are coming. And I believe that there will be a very serious effort to make sure that, this is pursued.
All right.
To its conclusion.
I'm grateful that you've been able to join us tonight. That's Dr. Rashid Draman. But